The first shot of the story opens on a man kneeling in the dust, his hands tied, his shadow stretching long and broken across the desert floor. The sun is merciless, the kind that burns truth into skin. A revolver clicks behind his head, and the man does not beg. He closes his eyes, not in fear, but in memory. This is how Dead Men begins, not with gunfire, but with silence so heavy it feels like judgment. His name is Elias Crow. Once, he was a husband, a father, a rancher who believed the land could be tamed without blood. Now, he is known across the territory as a dead man walking. The outlaw holding the gun hesitates, because even killers have heard stories about Crow. Before the trigger can be pulled, a rifle cracks from the hills. The outlaw drops. Elias falls forward, coughing dust, as a stranger on horseback rides into view. The stranger does not introduce himself. He cuts the ropes, tosses Elias a canteen, and says only one thing. "You should have stayed dead." That stranger is Samuel Pike, a former lawman who quit the badge after the town he protected burned anyway. Pike believes the West does not reward good men, only stubborn ones. Elias believes the West is broken because men stopped believing in mercy. Their uneasy alliance begins not with trust, but with necessity. The gang that nearly executed Elias is part of something larger, a brutal force led by a man named Holden Graves. Graves is not just an outlaw. He is a system of fear, buying towns, burning farms, hanging anyone who resists. He is building a kingdom out of bones. Elias has history with Graves. Years earlier, Graves rode through Elias's ranch asking for supplies. Elias refused to feed men who stole from others. That night, his barn burned. By morning, his wife was dead, his son missing, and Graves' symbol was carved into the fence. Elias searched for his boy until hope ran dry. When he finally found the truth, that his son had been killed trying to escape Graves' camp, something inside him died. Elias became what the West understands best. A man with nothing left. The journey that follows is not a straight line. It is a crawl through hostile towns, empty plains, and moral crossroads. Elias and Pike move from place to place, hunted by Graves' men and mistrusted by everyone else. In one town, they are denied water because Graves owns the well. In another, a preacher hides them in a church cellar, whispering prayers while boots stomp overhead. Every stop costs them something. Blood. Bullets. Pieces of their soul. They meet others along the way. Maria Calder, a sharp-eyed widow who runs a boarding house that secretly shelters fugitives. Jonah Reed, a young gunman eager to prove himself, who has never killed a man and is terrified of what that will make him. These people are not heroes. They are survivors, each carrying their own scars. Graves' shadow has touched all of them. Together, they form a fragile resistance, not because they believe they can win, but because living on their knees has become unbearable. The brutality of the West is shown without mercy. A town that refuses Graves is wiped out in a single night. Men are dragged from their homes. Women are left screaming in the street. The bodies hang for days as a warning. Elias arrives too late to save anyone, and the guilt nearly breaks him. He stands among the dead, shaking, whispering apologies to people who will never hear him. Pike tells him the truth Elias does not want to accept. You cannot save everyone. But Elias answers with quiet fury. Then I will save no one by doing nothing. The group plans an attack on Graves' stronghold, an old mining town turned fortress. The odds are impossible. Graves has numbers, weapons, and informants everywhere. What he does not have is men willing to die for something real. The night before the assault, the group sits around a small fire. No speeches. No promises. Just shared food and shared fear. Jonah admits he is scared. Maria admits she expects to die. Elias listens, then speaks for the first time not about revenge, but about why he keeps going. He says that if the world only remembers killers, then killers win forever. He refuses to let that be the ending. The assault is chaos. Gunfire echoes through the canyon. Horses scream. Explosions tear through wooden walls. One by one, the cost becomes clear. Jonah freezes in his first real fight and nearly dies before Pike pulls him back. Maria takes a bullet protecting a family trying to escape. Pike is wounded badly, blood soaking his coat, but he keeps firing, holding the line so others can move forward. Elias pushes deeper into the town, every step haunted by memories of his burned home. The final confrontation between Elias and Graves happens at dawn. Graves stands calm, almost bored, as if violence is just another business transaction. He mocks Elias, telling him his family died because kindness is weakness. Elias does not argue. He simply tells Graves that fear ends today. The fight is brutal and personal. Fists, knives, broken bones. No music. No glory. When Elias finally stands over Graves, weapon in hand, he hesitates. This is the moment the West expects. Kill or be forgotten. Elias lowers the gun. He tells Graves that death is too easy. He leaves him alive, tied, exposed, to face the law, the people, and the consequences he tried to escape. It is not mercy for Graves. It is freedom for Elias. The law arrives late, as it always does, but this time it arrives to something worth saving. In the aftermath, the survivors bury their dead. Pike survives his wounds, though he will never ride the same again. Jonah leaves his gun behind, choosing to rebuild instead of run. Maria's boarding house becomes a refuge again, this time without secrets. Elias does not stay. He never intended to. He rides out alone, not as a dead man, but as someone who chose what kind of man to be when it mattered most. The final image mirrors the first. Elias riding into the desert, sun low, shadow long. But this time, he is not kneeling. He is moving forward. The West is still brutal. Men will still kill. But somewhere between the dust and the blood, a line was drawn. Dead men is not just a story about violence. It is about what survives it. It asks whether a man is defined by what was taken from him, or by what he refuses to become. And when the screen fades to black, the message is clear and heavy as the desert air. Even in the cruelest world, choosing humanity is the most dangerous and powerful act of all. By the time the sun began to sink, Elias Crow and Samuel Pike were already miles away from the place where Elias had nearly died. The desert stretched endlessly around them, quiet and unforgiving, as if it had already forgotten the violence that had taken place. Elias rode in silence, the rhythm of the horses' hooves stirring memories he had buried deep. Every mile felt heavier than the last, not because of his wounds, but because of the men riding beside him. Pike finally broke the silence. He said nothing about names, nothing about gratitude. He only asked one question. Who are you running from? Elias did not answer at first. He stared at the horizon, where the sky burned orange and red, the same colors he remembered from the night his ranch burned. When he finally spoke, his voice was flat, stripped of emotion. I am not running. I am still standing where everything ended. They stopped at an abandoned well just before nightfall. The wood was cracked, the rope frayed, but there was still water at the bottom. As Elias drank, Pike watched him carefully. He had seen men like this before, men hollowed out by loss, kept alive only by unfinished business. Pike knew the look because he wore it himself once. He asked Elias if he had family waiting somewhere. Elias laughed quietly, the sound dry and bitter. Family does not wait in the West, he said. It gets buried. That night, as the cold crept in, Elias dreamed of his son. Not the boy as he died, but as he lived, running through tall grass, laughing, calling his name. Elias woke with his hand clenched around nothing, his chest tight with a pain sharper than any bullet. Pike was already awake, staring into the darkness. Without looking at Elias, he said that dreams were the cruelest thing the frontier ever invented. They show you what you can never ride back to. At dawn, they reached a small town called Red Hollow. It looked like safety from a distance, with smoke rising from chimneys and horses tied outside the saloon. Up close, it felt wrong. Doors closed as they passed. Conversations died mid-sentence. A child was pulled indoors by his mother the moment Elias stepped into the street. Pike noticed the same symbol carved into the hitching post that Elias had seen on his old fence years ago. Holden Graves had been here. Inside the saloon, the air was thick with fear pretending to be normal life. Elias ordered water. The bartender's hands shook as he poured it. When Elias asked about Graves, the man refused to answer, his eyes darting toward the back door. Pike leaned in and quietly warned him that silence would not keep him safe forever. The bartender finally spoke, barely louder than a whisper.